So Genesis 49:1, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. He's like, listen, we've got to have a conversation because some stuff is going to happen. I need to make sure that you are aware of what's about to take place. And so we talked a little bit on Saturday about being prepared and, making sure that we have our affairs in order, not just spiritually getting your house in order, making your call and election sure, but we talked about naturally as well, because we saw it demonstrated in the text where Jacob had made provision for his son, and laid things out, had a plan laid out. And we talked about, do we have a plan laid out for our departure? Do we have insurance? Do we have a plan in place? Do they know who to call? Do they know what paperwork or documentation they're going to need? Do they have we had the conversation preparing for our departure? Because we don't know when the Lord is going to come. We don't know if the Lord is going to come and get us, or if he's going to call us to him. We don't know if the rapture is going to happen first or we're going to die first. But in the event that he calls us to him, we want to make sure that we have things in order. Joseph is telling his kids, Jacob is telling them, calls for your sons and says, assemble yourselves around me that I may tell you what will happen to you and your descendants in the days to come. He says, gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel, your father. Come together. I need y'all to listen to what I'm getting ready to tell y'all. Reuben, you are my firstborn. You are my firstborn, my might, the beginning of my strength and vigor, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. That should have been your birthright. But he says in verse 4, unstable and reckless and boiling over like water in sinful lust, you shall not excel or have the preeminence of the firstborn. He forfeited his position. He forfeited his position. He allowed lust. Come on. He allowed lust to rob him of his birthright. He allowed lust to rob him of his birthright. So you will not excel or have the preeminence of the firstborn that you should have, because you couldn't keep your flesh under control. Lord help us. Because you went up to your father's bed with Bilhah. He slept with his father's concubine. Remember the two women that were given to him when he went to Laban's house? He slept with one of the baby mamas. So his father says, because you did that, because you went up to your father's bed with Bilhah, you defiled it. He went up to my couch. You slept with your daddy's wife. And now you have forfeited your birthright. This is tough. This is tough. Let me go to Genesis 35 real quick. Genesis 35:22, and it came to pass when Israel dwelt in that land that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. So, Tanika, when we're talking about the way Jacob was looking at these other sons besides Joseph and Benjamin that belonged to Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah, this is the kind of stuff that was going on. And I'm sure he felt some kind of way about it. Simeon and Levi are brothers, equally headstrong, deceitful, vindictive, and cruel. These are the ones, aren't these the ones that went up against Shechem's house because they raped Dinah? Their swords are weapons of violence and revenge. Their doings have forfeited their inheritance. Lord have mercy. Who knew that it was going to come back like this? It's kind of like at the end of Menace to Society, at the end when Cain ended up being shot. And it flashed, he did too much to turn back and too much to go on. This is what we see happening in the text. Simeon and Levi, equally headstrong, deceitful, vindictive, and cruel. Their swords are weapons of violence and revenge. Why? Because their sister was raped by the man in the land, and they decided that they were going to get revenge. And it came to pass, Genesis 34:25, on the third day when they were sore, because he told them that if they were circumcised, that they would come into covenant with them and they could exchange women. When they were sore, that the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. They were upset because their sister was raped by the man in the land, and they were mad at their daddy because they felt like he didn't do nothing about it. Here it is. It came up again. We reap what we sow. He says, "Oh, my soul, do not come into their secret council. Let not my glory or honor be united with their assembly, for I knew nothing of their plot." They did that on their own. Their father was not in on it. And he's like, I do not want to be held accountable for what they plotted to do. I had nothing to do with it. Because in their anger, they killed men and honored man, Shechem and the Shechemites. And in their self-will, they lamed oxen. Or in their anger, they slew a man. And in their self-will, they digged down a wall. They destroyed those people. Heart idols like lust, vengeance, and bitterness can be costly. Shama, they paying a high price. It's time for their father to die. And usually when the father died in those times, he pronounced a blessing on the kids. They missed it. Reuben slept with his daddy's concubine or his dad's wife. Levi and Simeon decided to take matters in their own hand. So, verse 7 says, "Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide and disperse them in Jacob." I will divide them and disperse them in Jacob, and I'm going to scatter them in the midst of the land of Israel. They're going to be scattered. This prophecy was fulfilled when the tribe of Levi received no inheritance except 48 towns scattered throughout different parts of Canaan. The tribe of Simeon was originally given only a few towns and villages in the midst of the inheritance of the tribe of Judah. You can find that in Joshua chapter 9, verse 1. So he says, Judah, now he's going to talk to Judah. Judah, you are the one whom your brothers shall praise. You're the one. Remember, his name meant praise. Remember when she had the kids and, oh, now I know he'll love me. When Leah had them, I know he'll love me now because I have a son. Oh, because I've given him a second son, now we shall be connected. I've given him a third son. How can he resist me? The fourth son, now I'm just going ahead and praise God. And she named him Judah. Judah, you are the one whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies, and your father's sons shall bow down to you. So Reuben forfeited his inheritance. Simeon and Levi and forfeited their inheritance. But Judah, he says, you're going to be the man. You're the one who your brothers are going to praise. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies, and your father's sons shall bow down to you. All your relatives will bow down before you, Judah. Judah, a lion's cub, with the prey, my son, you have gone high up the mountain. He stooped down and crouched like a lion, and like a lion who dares to rouse him. Who dares to rouse him? Who? Judah's the man. They're receiving a blessing. The scepter of royalty shall not depart from Judah. Listen to this. The scepter of royalty shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until Shiloh comes. Until the Messiah comes, Judah is going to be in the position of royalty. He gonna be in the position of power until the Messiah, until the coming of Christ. And to him, that talking about to Christ, shall be the obedience of the peoples. So Judah is going to be in this position until Christ comes, and then all are going to be obedient to Christ. Tying his foal to the strong vine, Lord have mercy, and his donkey's coat unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. He's pronouncing the blessing, tying his foal of the strong vine and his donkey's coat to the choice vine. He washes his clothing in wine because the grapevine produces abundantly, and his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker and sparkle more than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun, he goes on to say, shall dwell at the seashore. Zebulun shall dwell at the seashore, and he shall be a haven or a landing place for ships, and his flank shall be toward Sidon. The other two, they missed it, y'all. They missed it. Zebulun will settle by the seashore and will be a harbor for ships. His borders will extend to Sidon. If we think about a harbor for ships, if this is where the ships are going to come, that sounds to me like commerce. That sounds to me like a place of business. Sounds to me like a place of transaction where there's going to be an exchange of goods and services, where money is going to be exchanged and handed. You know, there's going to be some symbiotica going on, some exchange of goods and services. So Zebulun is going to be a businessman. This sounds like business to me. Lord have mercy. Issachar is like a strong-boned donkey, crouching down between the sheepfolds, wrestling between two saddle packs. When he saw that the resting place was good and that the land was pleasant, he bowed his shoulder to bear burdens and became a servant at forced labor. Dan will govern his people like any other tribe in Israel. But Issachar was going to be submitted to hard labor. Lord have mercy. This is, he's telling them, he started out by saying, come, let me tell y'all what's going to happen to y'all. Dan will govern his people like any other tribe in Israel. Listen to this. Dan, he says, the tribe of Dan will be a snake beside the road. Lord have mercy. A poisonous viper along the paths that bites the horse's hooves, so its rider is thrown off. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. He'll be a venomous serpent in the way, a fanged snake in the path that bites the horse's heels so that the rider falls backward. Verse 18 says, I wait for your salvation, O Lord. As for Gad, a raiding troop shall raid him, but he shall raid at their heels and assault them victoriously. Someone's going to come up against Gad, but he's going to get the victory over them. He's going to be victorious. Asher's food supply shall be rich and bountiful, and he shall yield and deliver royal delights. Naphtali is a doe let loose, or a swift warrior, which yields branched antlers or eloquent words. So he's going to be good orator. Joseph is a fruitful bow, a main branch of the vine, a fruitful bow by a spring, a well, or a fountain. It branches over the wall, influencing others. Joseph is going to be the fruitful one, the main branch of the vine, meaning stay connected to the vine. Come on. This is what Jesus told the disciples in John chapter 15. I am the true vine. Joseph gives me foreshadowing of Christ. Joseph is the main branch in this time of the vine. A fruitful bow by a spring, a well, or a fountain. Its branches run over the wall, influencing others. So if you're connected to Joseph, you're going to have what you need. If you're connected to Joseph, you're going to have what you need, because his is overflowing. His is influencing other people. His cannot be contained. Branches run over the wall. There's no containment. He's going to have influence over other people. The skilled archers have bitterly attacked and provoked him. They have shot at him and harassed him. Come on. But his bow remained firm and steady in a strength that does not fail. His arms were made strong and agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the name of the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Joseph is the one to be connected to. No matter what they did to come against him, they skilled archers bitterly attacked him, they provoked him, they shot at him, they harassed him, but he remained firm. Joseph is the one to be connected to. He not only remained firm, but he remained steady in the strength of God that does not fail. His arms were made strong and agile. What does that mean? He can always lift his hands up in praise in addition to fighting. They've been made strong and agile. They don't get tired. They go answer the call when the call comes, by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. He says, by the God of your father who will help you, and by the Almighty who blesses you with blessings above, blessings of the heavens above. Blessings lying in the deep that couches beneath, blessings of the nursing breasts and of the fertile womb. He says, the blessings of your father are greater than the blessings of my ancestors, Abraham and Isaac. This is what he's telling Joseph. Do y'all hear everything that he said to Joseph? Let's just go back and read this again. Joseph is the foal or the child of a wild donkey. The foal of a wild donkey at a spring, one of the wild donkeys on the ridge. Archers attacked him savagely. They shot at him and harassed him, but his bow remained stout and his arms were strengthened by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the shepherd. And these words, these names are capitalized. This is talking about God. His arms are strengthened by the hands of the mighty one, by the shepherd, by the rock of Israel. These are some prayer points. Wait, let me just sidebar. While we're praying, Father, you are the mighty one. You are the shepherd. You are the rock of Israel. You are God, the Father, my help. These are prayer points. You are the Almighty. Lord, have mercy. And you bless us with blessings of the heavens above and blessings of the watery depths below. Hallelujah. Listen, y'all, when we're studying these, when we're studying and going through line by line, like after going through so many books of the Bible, y'all, we should have a little bit more stamina in prayer. We should have a little bit more endurance in prayer. We shouldn't run out of words in prayer as fast now, because all we have to pray is the word. This is what the word says, that God is he's the mighty one. He's the shepherd. He's the rock of Israel. He is Father. He is the Almighty. He blesses us with blessings of the heaven above, of the watery depths below, blessings of the breast and the womb. Lord, have mercy. He says, may my fatherly blessings on you surpass, listen to this, surpass the blessings of my ancestors, reaching to the heights of the eternal hills. Jacob is telling Joseph, the blessings that I'm passing down to you will surpass the blessings that were passed down to me. May you be blessed more, super abundant, above, beyond what I was blessed. May they surpass the blessing of Abraham. May they surpass the blessing of Isaac. We don't want to just be blessed as our fathers were blessed. We want that to surpass what they had. Lord have mercy, reaching to the heights of the eternal hills. He says, may these blessings rest on the head of Joseph, who is a prince among his brothers. Y'all hear all of that? Who is a prince among his brothers. Joseph. Now, I can't help but think of what was there any bias to how Joseph was blessed by his father, considering that this is the son of his old age and by his beloved Rachel. I can't help but wonder how much of this is born in favoritism, because we know that this was his favorite son. This was the one. This is the one that he gave the coat of many colors. This is the one who he mourned over when the brothers stole him and put him in the pit and sold into slavery. I can't help but wonder how much of this, because his blessing was lengthy, I can't help but wonder how much of this had to do with that bias of him being the favorite. Nonetheless, he's blessed. And they did do him dirty, Shauna. And yes, he did feed him. He did. You're absolutely right. It just makes me wonder, Like, is he still showing favoritism and partiality to Joseph? I'm sure that he's grateful for, to God for the fact that Joseph was sent before them to preserve life and to be a strong deliverer for them in this time. I'm sure, that he's grateful to God for that. I'm sure that he's grateful that he didn't, that Joseph didn't repay evil for evil. I'm sure, that he's grateful that like, go get my dad and bring him, let me see him. I'm sure that he's grateful for these things. I got a sneaky suspicion he did. I got a sneaky suspicion, Shauna, that some of this blessing got to do with some favoritism. That's kind of like if you got a $1 million policy, somebody got to get 34% because 1 million doesn't divide up into 3 evenly. There's still 1% left. Joseph getting this little 1%, like he getting that little extra 1%, Tanika, it's some extra stuff. It's some extra stuff going on, because that was a lot. That was a lot. But he declared it. He declared it. May your blessings surpass mine. May they surpass the blessings that I received from the ancestors. Oh man. Hi, husband. How are you? Good to see you. 27. Because why doesn't Benjamin get it? Because Benjamin was the second son in the of his old age. He was the second one. That Joseph though, that Joseph was the man. That Joseph was the one. Here's what it says about Benjamin. Benjamin, he says, this is the blessing about this is to Benjamin. Let's see what he left Benjamin. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning, he devours the prey, and at night he divides the spoil. That was it. That was all he had to say about Benjamin. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, devouring his enemies in the morning and dividing his plunder in the evening. That's it. Hey, Joseph was the favorite to the end. I declare I am my father's favorite. Look, to the bitter end. They probably was, Tanika. They was. Hey, but at the end of the day, they couldn't be mad because it was because of the one that they was tired of that they were yet alive. That's one of those things, like, I don't really mess with him like that, but I'm so glad that he didn't treat me the way that I treated him. Honey, can you close my door, please? I don't like him, but I'm glad that he didn't treat me the way that I treated him. I don't too much care for him. I don't really mess with him like that, but I'm so glad that he wasn't as petty as he could have been, because it's only the fact that Joseph wasn't that way that they are still alive. That's it. And the fact that Joseph was in the position of power and could have taken revenge, but didn't take a revenge, speaks to his heart for God. His attitude was solid throughout everything. Did he have a moment? He had a moment because he's human. He had a moment, but then he got it together though. But his attitude stayed solid through the whole duration. And it's only because of Joseph that they were preserved. Of course, we know God orchestrated it all, but Joseph could have rebelled, but he didn't. But Benjamin, he had one little sentence. Lord help us. Benjamin had one little sentence. These are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said as he told his sons goodbye. Imagine that being the last word of your father. You're a ravenous wolf. You devour your enemies in the morning and you divide the spoil in the evening. Imagine being Reuben. Imagine being Reuben and your father is dying on the table or in the bed or whatever, and all you hear is tough. That's tough. When because you were the firstborn, you were expecting to receive this grand blessing as a result of being the firstborn, entitled to a specific something or another because of your birthright. But hearing your father's last words to you be that you're unstable and reckless, and because of your sinful lust, you will not excel or have the preeminence of the firstborn. Imagine your father there, and you're waiting on him to pass down the blessing, but he says, but because you slept with my concubine, because you defiled my bed, you will not get what you thought you were going to get. Imagine being Simeon and Levi and then forgot about what you did to the guy that raped your sister, and only to hear your father say that you're headstrong, deceitful, vindictive, and cruel, and that your sword is your weapon of violence and revenge. Imagine these are his last words to them. He's on his deathbed telling them this. And that because you killed in your anger, you're cursed. Your anger is cursed. And that you're going to be divided. Imagine hearing that. You gonna be scattered. Your household gonna be scattered. All of your children gonna be scattered. Your family gonna be scattered. Why? Because you didn't have no self-control. Because you wanted to get revenge on the one that did something to your sister. Because you didn't allow God to be God. You took matters into your own hand, and now your whole lineage gotta suffer because of your decision. Now ain't gonna be no unity. You're going to be scattered. They thought they did what was right. They lead to their own understanding. And everybody has to suffer now because of their decisions. We've got to understand how our decisions don't only affect us. They affect everybody connected to us and everybody that's coming up after us. They decided that they were going to get back at those men for raping their sister, and now their whole lineage got to suffer. Imagine that. And for Judah to be the one who hears him father say, your brothers is gonna praise you. Your brothers will bow down to you, Judah. Lord have mercy. And the scepter of royalty shall not depart from you until Christ comes. Can you imagine how Simeon and Levi and Reuben must have felt hearing their father say this to Judah, who's the fourthborn? Reuben got passed over because of his decisions. Simeon and Levi were passed over because of their decisions. But Judah, this fourthborn, We gonna bow down and worship you? You gonna always be seated in the position of royalty until the Messiah comes? Your lineage until the Messiah comes, not knowing how long it will be before the Messiah would come. That's almost like you're indefinitely going to be royalty until the Messiah comes, until Shiloh comes. Look, oh my gosh, the amount of enmity between these brothers has to be great. It has to be. Before they got to this place, there was division, there was envy, there was jealousy, there was hatred and animosity and strife. They were all competing for the love of a father who didn't really see them as his children the way that he saw Joseph, because they mama wasn't the mama they loved. Only to go through their whole life like that and to get down to the end and see Joseph blessed more than them yet again. Still, like the love that the father had for Joseph, it seems like it increased all the more. Like all of that time when Joseph wasn't around, Jacob never forgot him. He never stopped hoping and wishing and praying that he would be back reunited with his son. It probably never really settled in his spirit that his son was dead. He probably was holding out hope. And then he gets to him, he sees him, and at the end, he blesses him tremendously. I wonder if they felt like, man, we should have never went and told dad that this dude was alive. I, I wonder if they felt like um, he still loves him more than us. I wonder if they feel like, um, man, I should have never slept with dad's concubine, or we should have never did them dudes like that. I wonder if they have uh, a um, a repentant heart, because remember the uncle Esau who lost his birthright? Uncle Esau lost his birthright. The younger one, yes, he did. He crossed his hands. Yeah, if they had an understanding heart, right? I wonder because, like, thinking about men and testosterone and pride and ego and competition and all of the other things that men wrestle with, I wonder how they felt in this moment with hearing everything that they heard. With did did Jacob ever mention um that Reuben slept with his concubine any other time in between the time that it happened and the time where he's pronouncing what he's pronouncing? Like, was there ever any other conversations about it? Or did he just let it go and be like, okay, I'll deal with you in the end type stuff? I wonder how that went. I wonder if there was any other conversation with Simeon and Levi for how they dealt with the men in Shechem, other than him telling them, now y'all gonna have these people looking at me crazy because of what y'all did, thinking that I had something to do with it. I wonder if there were any conversations with them about the stuff that they were doing, other than what we see right there in the text. It just makes me ask questions because are these guys shocked that this is how it turned out? Tanika, I don't know. I don't know. None of them was perfect. Could be. Could be. I just it just makes me wonder like what's going on in the heart and the mind of them at this time. Like one decision messed up your whole future. I wonder if they ever thought about that before they did it, or were they just in their feelings? Was Reuben just so wrapped up in lust that he didn't really care when he slept with his daddy's concubine? Or what was Simeon and Levi so upset about what happened to their sister that they weren't concerned about how their decision would affect their future? This is some heavy stuff that's being passed down. It just makes me think, what was their mindset? These are all these are the beginnings of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is how they started with these blessings from these positions or lack thereof. This is this is how they were sent off to be the 12 tribes of Israel. How they feel about that? Well, the Bible says that Joseph was like, "No, Dad, like you're wrong." But Jacob, like, "No, I got this, son. I know what I'm doing." That's what we talked about on Saturday. That's what we talked about on Saturday. Because he places the right hand, I believe it was, on Manasseh's head and the left hand on Ephraim's, but he switches them. And Joseph is like, "Dad, hold up. That's not right," or whatever. And Jacob was like, and this is just my paraphrase, and Jacob was like, "Son, I know what I'm doing. I got this." And so Joseph yields. "Okay, cool, you got it." Let me see, where it's at. It's in 40, it's in 48. 48 and around. Da, 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 da. Joseph, behold, that's it. He brought them. Mm-hmm. I'll make thee a possession or an everlasting possession. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Stretched out his right hand, laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, da, 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 da. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head onto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, "Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head." And his father refused and said, "I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations." Joseph knew, and he tried to stop it. Jacob said, "I know what I'm doing. Manasseh gonna be great, but Ephraim is gonna be greater." Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Shauna, um, yeah, that's wild. He said, so when we see how they moving, it almost makes me wonder further if maybe the tribes that were constantly in and out of rebellion were in and out of rebellion because of all of this, because of, the younger one got blessed over the older one, and you know Reuben, he missed out on his birthright, and Simeon and Levi, they just full of anger and animosity, which is interesting too, because um the Levites ended up being the priests in the temple. So we know that God can still use and redeem the people, because the Father said, y'all full of anger. Y'all full of this vengeance and all of this other stuff. But later on down the line, they used in the temple. Probably if we did a deeper study on them animals, absolutely. You're absolutely right. So Jacob instructs them and says, soon um soon I will die and join my ancestors. He says, bury me with my father and grandfather in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite. Bury me with my father and grandfather in the cave of Ephron the Hittite. This is the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite as a permanent burial site. Um, Remember when Abraham wanted to buy the place in the land to bury his wife? This is there. So there, Abraham and his wife Sarah are buried. There, Isaac and his wife Rebecca are buried. So he like, bury me over there with Isaac and Rebecca, with Abraham and Sarah. And there I buried Leah. So the whole family over there. I buried Leah. It is the plot of land and the cave that my grandfather Abraham bought from the Hittites. And Jacob finished this charge to his sons. He drew his feet into the bed, breathed his last, and joined his ancestors in death. No, no more blessings being passed down from Jacob. There's no more opportunity at being redeemed, or there's it's over. Y'all go and be the 12. And this is how they started out. This was the beginning, the Bible says, of the 12 tribes. This is the beginning. Reuben started out in lust. Lord have mercy. Simeon and Levi started out in anger. Judah started out in praise and in royalty. Lord have mercy. Zebulun started out in business. That's the family plot. That's the family graveyard. He keep the family together. Could be. Rough start, huh, Shauna? Zebulun starts out in business. Issachar starts out becoming a servant at forced labor. Yeah, this is what was passed down to them. That's where he wanted her buried, Tanika. I don't know. They were sisters. And it was Laban's fault that Leah ended up in the situation that she ended up in, because he was the one who tricked Jacob into marrying her. Dan started out as a judge. Gad started out in victory. Naphtali starts out as a warrior, and Joseph starts out fruitful. But Benjamin, a ravenous wolf. Oh man. All these are the beginnings of the 12 tribes of Israel. So it makes you wonder. Y'all doing all of this in and out of God, rebellion, on, off, hot, cold, God here, God there, or idol here, idol there, or whatever. I wonder how many of them were upset about the blessing, about the declaration of their father on his deathbed. How many of them held grudges? How many of them held on to unforgiveness? Judah didn't have nothing to be mad at. Joseph didn't have nothing to be mad at. I mean, their blessings were favorable, right? But some of those others, I wonder how much of this played a part into what was going on. The fact that they ended up in such rebellion at times, in and out of God, on and off, back and forth, hot and cold. This was the great send-off. This was the great send-off. This is how they were sent off. Some sent off in power, others sent off as servants. This is the great send-off. But we can't discount the decision making though, because it's the decision of Reuben, Simeon, and Levi that landed them in this spot. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we got to admit that we have made some decisions that landed us right where we are today. We've made some decisions that, as a result of the decision that we made, we forfeited something that God had for us. Something that we stood to inherit. But because of how we were moving, and because we were doing things the way that we were doing them, it forfeited what we stood to gain, an inheritance or a birthright, if you will. Assuming that we continue on and just roll into Exodus, we'll see that Moses, when he was raised up and he got angry with the children of Israel after God used him to deliver them out of bondage, out of Egypt, when he told Pharaoh to let my people go, we'll see that God, when the people were complaining about something to drink or whatever, God gives him an instruction to go speak to the rock so that water could come out. And he went and hit the rock. He went and smote the rock because he was angry with the people. And so when we allow our emotions to cause us to disobey God and get out of the will of God, we done cancel something in our life. The Bible says that Moses stood and looked over into the promised land, but couldn't go in because of a decision that he made. What have we missed out on because of the decisions that we're making? Like I can't get it back, right? If I already missed it, I missed it. But what I can do is not lean to my own understanding, but acknowledge God in all of my ways. Hallelujah, before I make decisions, and that I can allow God to guide my decision so I don't end up in rebellion or disobedience. This, I mean, this just gives me a different perspective on the 12 tribes. Like, some of their send off was like, oh man, bet. Yo, we got this plan. We finna go do da 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 da. It's finna go be woo 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 woo. We finna go make it happen. But then others, it's like, dang, how, how am I supposed to work with this? How am I supposed to? What am I supposed to? You're right, Shauna. They're expensive. Like, how am I supposed to move forward and be a great people, and build a great nation and be a great nation when this is the send off? So I could see why they upset with Joseph and his tribe, or Judah and his tribe, because man, it's like y'all got everything Dad had, and this is all we left with. I could see it. So it's a lot, but that's what Jacob left him with. His last words. Poor little Benjamin. I feel bad for Benjamin being the baby, and that was the word. Like, and I don't know if that's saying that he's like a mighty warrior or something like that. Like, he he the one when it comes down to doing battle and stuff like that. I don't know if that's what that's saying, but that sound it didn't really sound good. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it right. Lord, give me the right perspective. Give me the right perspective of it, Lord. 'Cause I want to see it right. But this is how I'm seeing it. Like, it don't sound good. Ooh, was he? We gonna get into it. Hopefully, the Lord keep us in the Old Testament. Hey, the Old Testament be popping. It's a lot in the Old Testament. I don't know why people don't like it. I know that we are under grace. I know that Christ now brought that the Christ new covenant. I understand all that. I just want to understand the backstory, like the backstory. How did we get here? How did we get to the point of Christ needing to come? How? What was the journey? Like, what was going on? Why was a Messiah necessary? Why wasn't the blood of bulls and goats enough? How did we get to this place where Jesus has to say, "Prepare me about it"? You know what? I got it. I'm gonna come and take care of myself. So I like the backstory because it gives me a greater understanding and a greater appreciation for what Christ did. Because I mean, sheesh, it was a lot going on in the text, but this is the start. It was a lot going on in the Old Testament. We see a lot going on in the Old, and it's really a lot that we could benefit from, because if we're honest, we can see ourselves in the text, whether it's Old Testament or New Testament. We see ourselves in the text because we do some of the same stuff. You know why? Because all of us come from that same little corruption, fooling around with Adam and Eve in the garden. By one man's sin, the Bible says, death was passed down to all of us. We were all born in sin and shaped in it. So when we looking at the Old Testament, we see how they're on and off, in and out. Oh, okay. How they're on and off, in and out, hot and cold. We see that this is our nature. And so without Christ, this is who we are. In and out, on and off, hot and cold, worshiping idols, doing what Reuben did, doing what Simeon did, doing what Levi. This is our nature. This is our nature. So we need Christ, because without him, we lost. We lost. So I like to know the backstory. I like to know that backstory. Absolutely. No bloodshed, no remission, period. And can you imagine? I thank God for Christ, because can you imagine what the land smelled like when they had to when they were sacrificing all of those animals? Y'all know that death has a smell, blood has a smell. Can you imagine the aroma in the air at all of those animal sacrifices? Can y'all imagine what that smelled like? The smell of rotting flesh, burning flesh. Hmm. Hmm. I don't know that I would do it. I don't know that I would have been able to do it. What about the people, especially in today's time, if we had to depend on priests, with all of the stuff that has come out, with all of the pastors that have been exposed, with all of the priests that have been exposed in various aspects, all the different scandals and all that, who would be the priest that we will be able to trust to go to God on our behalf to sacrifice? Which one would we be able to trust? I was born for such a time as this. I thank God for Jesus, because who, Lord have mercy, who? Where will we be able to turn? To who? We will be able to turn. Mm-hmm. To who? Can you imagine that they wouldn't be using the meat? Come on, this happened in the Old Testament too. That after they sacrificed the animals, and did what they were supposed to do, now they got it on the menu at your favorite restaurant, and now they serving sacrificed animals as a delicatessen. $79.99. Who will we be able to depend on? I thank God for Jesus. I thank God for the new covenant, because who will we be able to depend on to keep the incense burning in the temple, to keep the praise going up in the temple? Who will we be able to depend on? Could we depend on ourselves, or will we get tired? I want to break, because when the priest was on duty, they was on duty for months at a time. It wasn't just a day. It was for a time span. You up. Nowadays, we can't even get the people to clap their hands in the church for 35 seconds before they get tired. Who would be able to depend on to keep the incense burning? Who? Who would make sure that the showbread was fresh? I thank God for Jesus, because looking at how things were then, it's like we would be in a world of trouble if it was still now. We will be in a world, God bless you, Unique. We will be in a world of trouble if that was still now. We will be in a world of trouble. Can you imagine David playing the harp or the lyre, and he's playing something soft, but then he mixes in some Kanye West or something on the. Can you imagine? What? I thank God for Jesus. I thank God that my salvation isn't dependent upon no one other than Christ. Shauna, come on now. Can you imagine? They was doing this back then too. Come on, can you imagine them taking you using the sacred vessels today to take shots of Patron and all that other stuff? Who will we be able to call on and use today for that? Who? When people don't want to be in church no longer than an hour. We're talking about an assignment for a time frame. Who will we be able to rely on? I, no endurance, Shauna. No endurance. Who would we be able to rely on? Who can you think about right now that you could say, you know what? If it was your month to be assigned to keep the incense burning in the temple, I could call this person and count on this person to keep the flame lit. Who would that be? Who will we be able to rely on as a keeper of the oil? Who will we be able to rely on? And be like, you know what? I know this person right here. They not gonna taint the oil. They ain't gonna get arrogant about the oil. They not gonna get prideful about the oil. They gonna keep the oil and they gonna do good. And they gonna make sure that we got what we need. Who could we? Who can you think of? Who can you think of that you could rely on like that? I thank God for Jesus. Who would? Who would you say, you know what? I would want this person to go in there into the Holy of Holies on my behalf and sacrifice for me because I know they live a clean life. Who? Yeah, I thank God for Jesus. But this is what they were faced with. Once we start getting into after, the children of Israel get delivered out of the hand of Pharaoh, and then God establishes some order because every man is doing what's right in their own eyes. They got to find, God got to put people in place that can be depended upon. Who could we depend on in 2026? Lord help us today. I would love to be able to say that I would be able to be dependent on, that somebody could depend on me, but I don't know that would be true. I don't know, because I still got a whole lot of growing to do. Shauna said it's a wrap. Listen, I thank God for Jesus. I thank God for Jesus. I thank God that because of the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, because the veil was ripped from top to bottom, that I can now come boldly to the throne of grace. That I don't have to worry about finding nobody to go to God on my behalf. I don't have to worry about finding nobody to intercede on my behalf. I can go to the Father myself because the bloodshed of Christ gave us access. The bloodshed of Christ gave us access. Eternal versus temporary. So we looking in this Old Testament and we seeing, a lot of the Old Testament it's a pattern of judgment, then forgiveness, then judgment, then forgiveness, then judgment, then forgiveness, then judgment, then forgiveness. It's like Y'all started out good, then y'all got on punishment because y'all was acting up, and then y'all got off punishment and y'all did the same thing again. So I got to put you back on punishment. And then you got off punishment, and then you did something else crazy, and then so I got to put you back on punishment. That's what the Old Testament is. It's a lot of that. And he's speaking to them, trying to get the people to understand, like, listen, I'm not playing with y'all, until it gets to the point where he's not even talking to the prophets no more, and he's silent for 400 years. God is silent for 400 years until John the Baptist comes with the message of repent. Can you imagine God not talking to you for 400 years because of your disobedience? See, I need to get off of here, but this is what it is, y'all. We assume that God is going to continue to talk to us, like he's never going to get fed up with our disobedience and rebellion. Like we got a monopoly on the ears of God and the mouth of God. But the Bible shows us something different. We've got to be careful that we don't get that firstborn syndrome, or that sense of entitlement, or that reckless believing, or reckless living, and deceptive belief that I can do whatever, however, whenever, wherever, and God is going to still avail himself to me. Because what happens when he says, this is your send off? You don't get the birthright that you would have got as the firstborn because of what you did. You don't get the inheritance that you would have gotten as the second and third born because of what you did. So it's skip over the first one, skip over the second one, skip over the third one, the fourth one get blessed. The 11th child get blessed. The 6th child get blessed. But we can't just assume that it ain't coming up again. We saw it in the text. Jacob might not have said nothing about it for a long time, but at the right time, he said something about it, and they missed it. The last chapter is chapter 50, and we just kind of read through 49. We didn't do too much. We didn't too crazy, and we'll probably do the same in 50 and just see what happened. But that's it. This is where we're gonna see what the tribes is doing. This is where we're going to see what the tribes is doing. I really just want to go into Exodus. Lord, let us go into Exodus. So I'll see y'all Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Should the Lord delay his coming to my going, we're going to read this last chapter and see what happens. We're going to read this last chapter and see what happens. So I really, Lord, can we just go into Exodus? I just feel like it's so much. It's yeah. Y'all know that the Jewish people, they had to memorize the first 5 books of the Bible. Memorize the first 5 books. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Can you imagine having to memorize that? How long you think it would? How long, Tanika, you think it would take for us to memorize the first 5 books of the Bible? Word, line by line. Lord have mercy. But anyway, y'all, look, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday. Until then, I pray the Lord bless you and keep you. I pray he makes his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. I pray he lifts up his countenance upon you and gives you peace. Shauna said maybe the names. Like, yeah, I mean, I've heard of individuals who